Can a game focused on vibes actually dethrone the king of mechanics? Starsand Island arrives into early access on February 1st. It brings with it Studio Ghibli-style visuals and Sims-like building freedom. It looks like a dream, it moves like a movie. But Stardew Valley isn't just a game, it is a decade-long obsession. It is the gold standard of the cozy genre. We have seen dozens of cozy games try to take the crown and fail. So does pretty art beat a perfect gameplay loop? Today we aren't just looking at trailers, we are doing a deep dive comparison. We're putting the farming grind, the NPC soul, and the building mechanics of these two titles head to head to answer one question. Is Starsand Island your next 500-hour obsession, or is it just a pretty distraction? Let's get into it. If you go to Steam right now and search for games like Stardew Valley, you will find a sea of pixel art. For years, developers have tried to capture the magic of Stardew by copying its look, but Starsand Island makes a bold choice. It doesn't try to look like a retro game, it tries to look like a memory. The first time you wake up in Starsand, the comparison to Studio Ghibli isn't just marketing hype, it's genuinely the best way to describe it. Look at the lighting engine, look at the way the grass sways individually in the wind. When you walk out your front door, the world feels expansive, it feels like you are playing inside a movie. This is the game's strongest hook. Where Stardew relies on your imagination to fill in the gaps of its pixel art, Starsand does the heavy lifting for you. The water shaders, the soft shadows, the sound of the ocean, it sells the fantasy of an island getaway harder than almost any other game in the genre. But pretty graphics come with a cost. Stardew Valley is played on a strict grid, it is snappy, you never miss a click. You are a machine of efficiency. Starsand Island is a third-person game, you have full 360-degree movement. This sounds like a small detail, but it changes the entire cozy factor. Stardew feels like a routine, it's crisp, it's organised. Starsand feels looser. It encourages you to wander rather than march. For players who get stressed by the TikTok pressure of Stardew, this perspective shift is going to feel like a vacation. But for the min-maxers, you might find the lack of a grid frustrating when you're trying to water that one specific carrot. So the vibe check passes with flying colours. It is lush, it is beautiful, and it sounds incredible. But a pretty world means nothing if the work you do inside of it is boring. Let's talk about the grind. Let's get technical. A cozy game lives or dies by its game loop. If the simple act of watering a plant isn't satisfying, the game fails, no matter how pretty the graphics are. This is where Stardew Valley earned its crown. Stardew is crunchy. When you hit a rock, it has weight. When you water a crop, there is a snappy audio cue. The grid system means you don't have to aim, you just have to find the rhythm. It turns chores into a flow state. Starsand Island takes a different approach. Because you aren't on a grid, you have to aim. Based on the demo and early footage, this feels looser. It lacks that arcade-like snap of Stardew. It feels more realistic, sure, but realism can sometimes feel like a chore. If you are the type of player who loves the hyper-efficiency of harvesting 500 blueberries in 2 minutes, Starsand might feel a little bit slow. But the biggest difference is the economy of effort. In Stardew, your enemy is the energy bar. You have to eat to work. It is a resource management game disguised as a farming sim. In Starsand, the limiting factor appears to be time. This is a massive design shift. In Stardew, if you run out of energy at 10 AM, your day is basically over unless you have food. In Starsand, you can keep going as long as the clock is ticking. This makes Starsand significantly more forgiving. It removes the punishment of passing out, but it also removes some of the strategic depth. You aren't calculating calories, you're just watching the sun go down. And we have to talk about inventory. We all know the pain of chest management in Stardew before you get the workbench. Starsand seems to have learned from modern games. The UI is clean, it's flat, it looks like a mobile app in a good way, but does it have the depth? Can we automate? In Stardew, the goal is eventually to stop farming. You build sprinklers, you get Junimos, and you automate the loop so you can go to the mines. We haven't seen that level of industrial automation in Starsand yet. If you are looking for a game where you build a factory, stick with Stardew. If you want a game where you tend a garden by hand, Starsand is your lane. But the biggest change to the loop isn't the farming, it's the movement. We all remember the pain of early game Stardew. You walk everywhere, it is slow, it takes hours to get to the beach, and you pray for the day you can afford a horse. Starsand Island looks at that slow pace and says, no thanks. You get gliders, you get skateboards, you get bicycles. This fundamentally changes the cozy equation. In Stardew, travel is a cost. It costs time. In Starsand, travel is a toy. It turns the commute between your farm and the town into a minigame. It keeps the energy high, whereas Stardew is content to let you take a slow, meditative walk. So if you love the strategic pressure of the clock, Stardew still wins. But if you want to zoom around an island without worrying about passing out from exhaustion, Starsand has the better toys. But there is one area where Starsand doesn't just compete with Stardew, it completely destroys it. Let's talk about building. If you are a player who has spent 500 hours in Stardew Valley, you know the struggle. You want to place a couch, but it only faces south. You want to center a rug, but the grid forces it 1 pixel to the left. You aren't really decorating, you are negotiating with a spreadsheet. Stardew Valley is a farming game first, and a decorating game a distant second. The grid is law. Starsand Island looks at that grid and throws it in the trash. This is the killer feature. This is the ace in the hole. The building system in this game is closer to The Sims 4 than it is to Harvest Moon. You have full control. You can rotate furniture to any angle, you can stack items, you can customize roof pitches, window placements and wall textures. You aren't just placing prefab buildings, you are actually designing architecture. And it goes beyond just the house. You can terraform, you can dig rivers, raise hills and sculpt the island itself. In Stardew, you adapt to the map. In Starsand, the map adapts to you. This creates a fundamental split in the philosophy of the game. Stardew Valley encourages optimization. Because space is limited and rigid, we tend to build factories, rows of kegs, rows of crops. It satisfies the part of our brain that likes order. Starsand encourages expression. It allows you to waste space beautifully. You can build a reading nook that serves no gameplay purpose other than looking cozy. I need to stop right here because this is the biggest divide between the two games. And I genuinely need to know where the Tea Time crew stands on this. Are you a decorator or a min-maxer? Would you trade Stardew's perfect, snappy crop loops for Starsand's ability to actually decorate your island without installing 20 different mods? Because for a lot of you, that building system is worth the price of admission alone. But for others, all that freedom just feels like paralysis. Let me know in the comments, Team Builder or Team Farmer, because honestly, looking at those roof mechanics, I might be ready to retire my hoe for a hammer. And one final thing before we move on, you aren't just stuck on land. Because this is Starsand Island, not Starsand Farm, you can build on the water. You can design houseboats, you can build piers. In Stardew, water is a barrier, it's where you lose your hoe if you misclick. In Starsand, water is a canvas. It adds a verticality and a texture to your base that 2D pixel art just can't replicate. But a beautiful house is empty if there's no one to share it with. A cozy game isn't just about blocks, it's about neighbours. Does Starsand have soul, or are the NPCs just walking mannequins? You can have the best farming mechanics in the world, and you can have the best building system ever made, but if the town feels dead, you won't stay. Mechanics keep you playing for 10 hours, characters keep you playing for 100. This is where Stardew Valley stops being a game and starts being a place. The characters are messy, they deal with alcoholism, depression, PTSD and homelessness. They are rude to you at first. They feel real because they are flawed. Starsand Island comes out swinging with its art direction, the character portraits are stunning, they have that crisp, modern anime aesthetic that immediately grabs you. If you are someone who mods Stardew to make the portraits look better, Starsand gives you that quality out of the box. But pretty art can't hide bad writing, and this is my biggest concern going into early access. In Stardew, the writing is sharp, it has bite. In many cozy competitors, the dialogue feels like it was written for toddlers. Everyone is too nice, everyone is happy all the time, and it feels a little bit sterile. We don't know yet if Starsand has the courage to be dark. Does it have a Shane? Does it have a George? Or is everyone just smiling shopkeepers waiting to give you a quest? If the writing is shallow, the town will feel like a theme park, fun to visit, but you wouldn't want to live there. However, Starsand promises a mechanic that could change everything. Action-based affection. In Stardew you spam gifts, you give Abigail an amethyst twice a week until she marries you. It's a vending machine mechanic. Starsand claims that NPCs react to what you do. If you spend all day fishing, the fisherman NPC takes an interest in you. If you focus on farming, the locals react to that. If they pull this off, it fixes the biggest complaint about the cozy genre. It makes the relationships feel dynamic rather than transactional, and let's be honest, the romance cutscenes look incredible in this engine. Watching a sunset with your partner in full 3D lighting hits differently than reading text boxes on a static screen. So, the jury is still out. Stardew Valley has 10 years of lore and emotional connection. Starsand Island has potential and beauty. If you want a story that will make you cry, trust Stardew. If you want a world that feels reactive and looks gorgeous, Starsand deserves a chance. But before you rush to Steam to buy Starsand Island on February 1st, we need to have a serious adult conversation, because one of these games is finished and the other one is definitely not. We need to manage expectations. Stardew Valley is not just a game, it is a polished diamond. It has had 10 years of updates, and the recent 1.6 update added more content for free than most games have in paid DLC. It is relatively bug-free, it is balanced, and it is complete. Starsand Island is launching into early access. That is not just a label, it is a warning. On February 1st, this game will likely have bugs, it might have unfinished storylines, save files might get corrupted. That is the price of being first. We have been burned before. We all remember Coral Island, a beautiful game, an incredible style, and still one of my number one games, but it launched its 1.0 version without a finished main questline. My rule for the Tea Time crew is simple. Do not buy a game based on what the developers promised to add in a year. Buy it based on what is playable today. And then there is the hardware. Stardew Valley runs on anything. You can play it on a 10-year-old laptop, a phone, or a Switch Lite, and it runs at a perfect 60 frames per second. Starsand Island is a fully 3D, high-fidelity Unreal Engine game. If you are playing on a Switch, you are safe with Stardew. We don't even know when Starsand will come to consoles, and when it does, it will struggle. If you are on PC or Steam Deck, Starsand looks amazing, but expect your fans to spin up. This isn't a game you can run in the background while watching YouTube on a potato laptop. Finally, consider the community. Stardew has a wiki that answers every question you could ever have. Starsand is brand new. You will be discovering things on your own, and for some that mystery is exciting, but for others getting stuck without a guide is frustrating. So here is the reality. Stardew Valley respects your time, Starsand Island asks for your patience. Are you willing to deal with the jank to experience the new vibes, or do you just want a game that works? So to answer the question we started with, can Starsand Island dethrone the king? No. Stardew Valley is a masterpiece of mechanics. It is the perfect loop. If you want a game that challenges your efficiency, rewards your strategy, and offers endless bug-free content, the king stays on the throne. But Starsand Island isn't trying to be the king of mechanics, it is trying to be the queen of aesthetics. It offers something Stardew never could: freedom. The freedom to move how you want, build what you want, and decorate without a grid. Here is my advice. If you are a min-maxer, stay in Pelican Town. You will get frustrated by the looseness of Starsand Island, but if you are a dreamer, if you have played Stardew to death and you are just looking for a world to get lost in, to build a house that actually looks like a home, and to experience that Studio Ghibli magic, then Starsand Island is the vacation you need. We will be covering every update, every patch, and every secret of Starsand Island right here on the channel. So if you want a guide through the early access chaos, hit that subscribe button. And I want to see a war in the comments today. Are you sticking with the pixels, or are you moving to the island? Let me know. I'm JaeTeeGames, and I'll see you in the next one.